Donald Trump is in panic mode. His speeches are getting more boring, if you could believe that. Low energy crowds, smaller venues. Trump's top aides are saying all he's doing is playing golf and yelling at them all day. This as Vice President Kamala Harris continues to surge ahead in the polls, but she's really doing a great job is building this movement in a pro-democracy way with a pro-democracy community. We'll break it all down. Now, the GOP MAGA needs to strike back, so they come up with the fact that Governor Walz is actually cheating on his dog Scout with another puppy at the dog park. We'll discuss whatever the heck the GOP is talking about. They go, his dog really isn't Scout. He's with another dog. That's what they were talking about today. Also, what Donald Trump was talking about today, to debate or not to debate. That is the thing that Donald Trump whines about every single day as he calls George Stephanopoulos Slopodopoulos because Donald Trump is a petulant 3-year-old. No offense to petulant 3-year-olds. Donald Trump continues to say, I'm not going to debate. I'm going to debate. I'm not going to debate. It's all unfair. Aren't we tired of this, America? Can we please just have adults in leadership positions? That would be fantastic. Also, Trump was endorsed by someone who he and his campaign previously referred to as a rabid communist, RFK Jr., and Donald Trump described him as a Democratic plan. Trump said he would rather vote for President Biden over RFK Jr. because he says RFK Jr. would destroy the country quicker, but that's their guy now, and now they are promoting a new line, Make America Healthy Again, by banning all vaccine requirements from schools. We'll break that. And yeah, I wouldn't really want to get my health advice from those guys right there on screen, but I would want to get my legal advice from Special Counsel Jack Smith. He filed an appeal before the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals of Judge Eileen Cannon's dismissal of the criminal case against Donald Trump involving Trump's theft of nuclear secrets. Here are the words that Special Counsel Jack Smith used in the appeal brief of Judge Eileen Cannon's reasoning. Nonsensical, lacks merit, erroneous, overlook key issues, strained reading, no support in text, context, history, or common sense, misguided, fundamentally mischaracterizing the law, attaching undue weight to the law. We'll break that down. Also, Trump's stock breaking down. While our stock market has reached record highs, which Donald Trump claims is somehow because of him, Trump's stock, which has his name on it, seems to be crashing. So how does that work if you're taking credit for the stock market that's doing well, but your stock that has your name on it that's doing bad? I don't know. It seems like a very Trumpy thing to say. Also, let's get into that MeidasTouch expose that showed that CNN panel of so-called undecided voters from Pennsylvania, which was broadcast after Vice President Kamala Harris's speech at the DNC. We showed that it had someone who was a longtime Trump supporter on it who admits that he was a Trump supporter. He said he told CNN he was a Trump supporter. He said he told CNN that he and the friend that he was with at this restaurant or bar when CNN approached him, that they were both planning on voting for Donald Trump. But CNN said, come on the undecided panel anyway, keep an open mind. And CNN then responded to the MeidasTouch report, and CNN says they're fine with it. This is how they operate. They're okay not disclosing it to the public, and presumably they will do it again. They don't see an issue in this at all. And they said, yeah, he told us that he was a Trump supporter. We'll talk about all of this here on the MeidasTouch Podcast. I'm here with Brett. I'm here at a transitional location right now. We will be changing studios. You may have seen me in a different location. That's going to be the main studio where you saw those morning videos. Problem, folks, I probably should have checked that the new studio location has working Wi-Fi because that was a big issue. So I went back to another location, and that's where I am right now. So apologies. I need to get that new location sorted with Wi-Fi. Brett, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, then, having an internet connection, probably up there, at least top 3 on the priority list if you're doing a live streamed podcast. And it's funny, I see all the people, commenting in the chat right now. Where's Ben? Where's Ben? Everybody very much takes notice of your location and where you are, but it's good to be here with you. We missed Jordy, who was away on business last week. Feels like Jordy has not been on the show. And I want to say, I don't want folks to get mad at me and Ben. It's not our fault. Jordy is unfortunately under the weather. He was working a little too hard last week. But once he recovers, I know he will be back, and Jordy sends his love to the Meidas Mighty. Ben, we got some pretty big stories to cover today. Where shall we begin?
We should begin with everybody calling my cable provider and asking them to please make sure my Wi-Fi. You don't understand. When I called them today, I said to them, look, please promise me this is not a long-term thing. I said, my whole life is dependent on this Wi-Fi. So they were talking to me about this node being down and that node being down. I'm just saying, please make sure this Wi-Fi works, because there's going to have to be some major life audibles being called if that's going to be a constant situation. Well, let's talk about the audible that Donald Trump pulls each and every day. As I said at the outset, the great transition to debate or not to debate. That is what Donald Trump whines about every night. And my whole view of it is, dude, shut up. It's like either sit for the debate or don't sit for the debate. But stop the whining. Oh, am I going to debate? Am I not going to debate? Should I debate George Slopadopoulous? George Slopadopoulous? It's like, okay, man, like grow up. And you could either show up to the debate that was previously scheduled on September 10th, or don't show up, frankly, and Vice President Kamala Harris will show up and she'll speak directly to the American people. We don't need the gaslighting that you're doing a Fox debate on September 4th or 5th that never existed, that you made up with Sean Hannity. That's going to be some weirdo town hall that you've done 10 times already, where Hannity's like, so can you tell the world how funny you are? When do we get to see Melania next? I mean, the stupid question.
You know what's funny about those town halls, though? Trump gets those softball questions from Hannity, and Ben's not even exaggerating. Like, those were the questions. But it's those town halls where he also manages to veer off script. Like, I think he said the dictator in a day comment in one of those town halls. Like, he somehow manages to take a softball and just completely whiff every single time. And I think we're seeing the more he kind of gets out there, he's panicking, obviously. The polls are against him right now, and never get complacent with the polls. I want to say that and make that clear to everybody, but you could tell that it's affecting Donald Trump. He values those polls very much. And so he's now embarking on this sort of weird swing state tour. He's not doing really these big venues anymore. Maybe here or there he'll go in front of a bunch of people, but he's doing these weird kind of smaller events that are very low energy. They're very weird. They're very deranged and unhinged. And he just rambling about Kamala Harris and just like strange stuff. And he's not doing what you actually do or what you're supposed to do when you go into swing states to try to win over voters. He's just doing the same rambling that he always does. Now it's from this defensive posture, and this just like weird depressing. Like, the guy looks like depressed out there when you see these clips. It's very strange.
Hannity will say to Donald Trump things like, you're a very sarcastic guy. You didn't mean when you said you want to be a dictator on day one. That's just, you're being funny. And Trump goes, no, I want to be a dictator on day. I want to be a dictator on day one. And then Hannity's like, okay, but you don't really like these dictators. No, I love them. Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin. Putin really respected us when I was there. Kim Jong-un really respected. That's actually how those things go. Anyway, Brett, speaking of these low energy events, today he was in Detroit. He always has like a theme that's announced, whether it's like, we're going to talk about the economy, we're going to talk about immigration, but then he never talks about that. He always ends up talking about just like Vice President Kamala Harris. So he'll go, Kamala, whatever her name is, Kamala, I'm better looking than her, right? I say I'm better looking, and it's like, okay, again, like what? I don't even know what is it that you're doing.
And then the press goes, Donald Trump went to Detroit to deliver an economic message to the voters. We're like, but did he? But did he? Or is that just what he said it was going to be about?
I like words. I like big words. I'm sophisticated. I'm highly educated. I like big words. Big words. Here, play this clip.
These people are just so destructive. So, I always look for good words. Highly sophisticated. I'm highly educated. I like sophisticated words, but there's only one word I can't. Stupid. They're stupid people.
Just imagine if a coworker or a boss or someone talked like that. You start a meeting. Everybody, I'm really smart. I like words, big words. I'm really smart. You know, the other company, they're stupid. I mean, again, who behaves just at a basic level? Who behaves this way? Donald Trump. Here, Donald Trump says if there is a debate, because he's now posting that he may not show up to the debate. Here, play this clip.
They flew. That stops all of their. I shouldn't say this because if there's a debate, it would be nice to surprise her with that one.
And apparently in the speech, Brett, I think it was supposed to talk about the economy. I'm not really sure what the theme was. But anyway, Donald Trump appeared to be very angry that the Ukrainian army was making advances in Russia and that the Ukrainian army is doing well now. That really seemed to bother him. And that was one of his messages that he wanted to share in Detroit. So they went from Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall, to Donald Trump saying, look what's going on there. They're making too many advances against Russia. Russia's losing. I don't like this. Here, play this clip.
Look at what's going on right now with Ukraine. They're surging into Russia. Okay? You're going to end up in World War III, and it's going to be a bad one.
Okay. As you say, Brett, his heart's just not in it. And then he's been obsessively talking about former President Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama, talking about him at the Democratic National Convention. And it's really gotten under Donald Trump's skin. So here Donald Trump is in Glendale, Arizona. And again, he always emphasizes former President Obama's middle name. And he goes, Hussein. Here, play this clip.
No, they get bored. Like Barack Hussein Obama got far fewer votes the second time, and he won. Have you heard of him, Barack Hussein Obama? Remember Rush Limbaugh? Barack Hussein Obama. He was nasty to me. He was nasty. Michelle was nasty. They're all nasty. Nasty people. They were very nice. I was surprised. I thought he was, and I was sort of nice to him. I said, no, I like him. Good. It didn't matter. They were nasty to me. And
then Donald Trump kicks a veteran police officer off the stage during that speech because that veteran police officer was talking longer than Donald Trump wanted, because Trump wanted it just to be about him whining to the crowd. Here, play this clip.
Flowing into this country at an alarming rate, with only 5% being intercepted at the border. Okay. Trump. You got it. Folks, let me finish up here, please.
Yeah, and then Donald Trump says that if he were to be elected, he said his message is joy, and that his campaign is all about joy. And he also said earlier today, too, we're not going to play that clip, but he goes, it's about democracy. We need to bring democracy back. And then he said he's going to fill the country with joy that has been taken away. Here, watch this.
everyone will prosper, every family will thrive, and every day will be filled with joy and opportunity and hope. But for that to happen, we must defeat Kamala Harris.
His moves, though, are so predictable. He literally will just steal exactly what the other side is saying and then repeat it so that he knows how to play the media, right? They know, well, Donald Trump's talking about joy, right? Ignore the rest of the speech. He used the word joy. And then you saw that New York Times guest essay today. Donald Trump can win on his character.
Oh.
Did you see that one, Brett? He can win on character. And so they attacked Vice President Kamala Harris's detailed economic plan, them and others, right? And go, oh, it's not detailed enough. And they go, well, Donald Trump, he can win on character, and sometimes I feel when you and I like go after the media, I'm like, do I sound like, I don't want to sound like a conspiratorial, like they're trying to do this, but like there's Occam's razor, like there's no other explanation. Like when we talk later in the show about CNN's response to having a Trump supporter on an undecided panel, the way they responded to me is really the story, because it's like, wait a minute, that's what you do? How many times have you done that before? Is that how you do all of your polls? Is that how you do all of your panels? Is that how you arrange and craft and architect these narratives? And again, you and I talk about it a lot though, Brett, because we're like, do we sound like we're just whining about corporate media? And does the audience think like, oh, there they go again, talking about the media sucks?
Because here's the reality. Like, I really want them to do a good job. Like, and we can talk about this later. Like, I want them to crush it. I want them to do an amazing job. I want them to hold people accountable. I want people to be able to get the facts and know that they are getting the actual facts and the actual thing. But time and time again, we are seeing this just bizarre distortion of reality. And these aren't like black and white. These aren't gray areas. These are black and white issues that we're dealing with. Like if somebody says, I know I'm getting started early here, but if somebody says, if you asked, do you know who you're voting for this November? And they say, I am voting for Donald Trump. You probably shouldn't use that person on your panel of undecided voters. Your response should not be, but if you were on TV, would you consider keeping an open mind, perhaps? Okay, I'll be on TV. That's not how these panels should work. And I just do not understand that level of journalistic malpractice. And at a certain point, you start wondering, is this a mistake? Is this just like something was overlooked here? Or is it intentional? And you have to, at some point, think it must be intentional. It has to be intentional.
I couldn't agree more with you. We'll talk about that towards the end of the show as well. I'll show you this clip as well, though, where Donald Trump, this is in Las Vegas, and this is where he's speaking at a business, which he previously described, you're a big business, but we call you a small business for tax purposes, wink, wink. He actually said that in his speech. Here's Donald Trump, though, in Vegas. I think he was supposed to talk about the economy. Again, I don't know what the point of the speech was, but he starts talking about the way Vice President Kamala Harris looks and that no one's ever heard of her before. Here, play this clip.
The other side, Kamala. Have you ever heard of her, Kamala? Nobody ever heard of her before.
And it's just like, say her name correctly. It's not that, like, he intentionally says the name incorrectly, and then he goes, I'm going to say her name incorrectly. It's Kamala. Just say the name correctly, right? Also, Donald Trump previously supported rules that said that the companies, that the bosses can take the tips of their workers. Like that was, we have to remember, this is the point, Brett, too. So when Donald Trump says no tax on tips, and the media just repeats it, there's actually a track record, right? When Donald Trump was disgracing the White House, his labor secretary put forward a rule that said the bosses can take away, can strip, can steal the tips of the workers. That was their rule. A Democrat then had to introduce in an omnibus bill a provision that stopped that from happening. So we actually know what Donald Trump did there. He'll say anything. He'll go anywhere. It doesn't matter. When we talk about the RFK endorsement, Trump can call the guy a communist, say the guy's going to destroy America. And by the way, RFK can say that about Donald Trump because they're charlatans. They are liars. Quite literally, everything they do is basically a lie. And they realize that the corporate media is just going to put it out there and really not fact check them or get so overwhelmed with all of the info that it's just like, well, hey, he's bad. She's got issues. Whoa, what's going on here? No, just do your job and methodically let's talk about these things. Trump wanted bosses to steal the tips. Trump wanted the bosses to steal the tips of service workers. That was actually what his policy was. And now Donald Trump wants to use the no tax on tips as a way that corporations can claim that their income is tips. Just classify it as tips, and then you won't have to pay taxes on it. That's what he's going to do. He has a history of screwing over workers, and he's not a good business person. He's not a builder. He's a destroyer. He's destroyed everything he's basically touched. He's bankrupted all of these companies that he started in the past or lent his name to. Why is he out there selling weird assassination edition sneakers? Why is he selling Bibles right now? Like, none of this other than on the MeidasTouch network and some other independent media. No one talks about this stuff. It's weird. He's out there selling sticky Bibles. Someone running for the presidency selling $60 sticky Bibles, selling assassination edition sneakers. And I don't know if you caught this today. There was a bipartisan congressional delegation that actually went to Butler, Pennsylvania to take a look at the site of where the shooting took place. You know, and I think it was three of the, Republicans or four of the Republicans on that panel, including Clay Higgins, who was out there spreading all of the conspiracies, too busy to even show up in Butler, Pennsylvania. All of the Democrats took their jobs seriously, despite the fact that Donald Trump is out there selling assassination edition sneakers. The Democrats are there in Butler, Pennsylvania, and three or four of the Republicans, including Clay Higgins, who are spreading conspiracies that this was an inside job, they don't even show up. Just the same way that J.D. Vance doesn't show up to vote for protecting IVF, just as the same way as J.D. Vance doesn't show up to vote about tax credits for children. It's just over and over again. You see this hypocrisy. We're going to call it out. We've got a lot more show. We're going to take our first ad break right now. I want to remind everybody about growmeidas.com. That's one of the ways you can. Sometimes people say, hey, I love patreon.com/MeidasTouch, but I want to become just a recurring donor. I don't want anything in return, or I want to just give a big one-time donation, and I just want to give a lot of the money, a big contribution, and then, and I want to be anonymous. growmeidas.com could be helpful for you there. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch, you get after shows and a lot of special features there. And then store.MeidasTouch.com, the pro-democracy gear is selling out like crazy. Check that out as well. 100% union made, 100% made in the U.S. You see some of the great gear right there. I'm amped up. I'm fired up, even though I'm in this undisclosed location in a kitchen. We're going to make that Wi-Fi work at the new location. We'll be right back after our first quick break of the show.
I've been trying to lead a heart-healthy lifestyle, but finding the energy to keep up with healthy changes like getting my steps in, it's been an uphill battle. We often think living a more heart-healthy life means making big, unsustainable changes. Well, with SuperBeets Heart Chews, you can get daily blood pressure support in just 2 tasty chews a day. And they even promote heart-healthy energy without the stimulants. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in SuperBeets are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. My energy levels are higher than ever. Now, without typical dips from coffee and energy drinks, it's fantastic to support my blood pressure and still have the energy for more physical activity. It's a win-win. Double your potential with SuperBeets Heart Chews. Get a free 30-day supply of SuperBeets Heart Chews on all bundles and 15% off your first order by going to getsuperbeets.com and use code MEIDAS. That's getsuperbeets.com, code MEIDAS.
Have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits, led by the sponsor of this video, Fume. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device. Flavored air isn't like vaping. If vapor was compared to sticky soda, Fume cores are closer to herbal teas. Fume has lots of delicious flavors to choose from, like crisp mint and orange vanilla. With flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation through a passive diffusion system that utilizes no electronics, vapor, or combustion. addiction. Fume draws flavor to your mouth. Fume fills the void. Ditching a bad habit can leave. You still have something to reach for. Fume is not a vape. There's no vapor, and you could use it anywhere. There's no nicotine. It's not addictive. The non-toxic flavors are a guilt-free alternative. Fume doesn't use any batteries, so you'll never need to charge it. The design is super sleek. It looks awesome, and you can truly feel the weighted high-quality design. One of the things about Fume is that it's made to fidget with, and it calms anxiety with magnets, taps, and clicks. Fume continuously invests in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products. Fume is also backed by doctors in the United States. My favorite Fume flavor is crisp mint. It is honestly delicious, and I couldn't recommend this more for anyone trying to quit their bad habit. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use my code MeidasTouch, M-E-I-D-A-S, to get a free gift with your journey pack. So head to tryfume.com. That's TRYFUM.com. Tryfume.com. Use code Meidas or scan the QR code on screen to get a free gift with your order today. We're back. Shout out to all of our sponsors. You can check out the discount codes for all of them in the descriptions below. So make sure you all check that out. I saw some of the comments saying that they're going to miss the fireplace mantle and seeing me speak in front of the fireplace mantle. I just got to be honest with you. I cried for about, I didn't know how emotional it was going to make me to leave that location. Like, I may cry live right now.
Let me tell you, he's not making this up. Ben called me yesterday to tell me the story about how emotional he got to say goodbye to the old studio and the mantle, and that he was like breaking down. So this is not just him putting it on for the show. I just want to make sure everyone knows that.
If you can't see, if you zoom in, even when I talk about it, I get, because I've spent every day, I spend every day talking in front of the fireplace mantle, and I designed it all nice. So anyway, I'm sorry. I really like the fireplace mantle. Oh man, change is hard sometimes, but the new place is good. I just hope it has Wi-Fi. All right, going back to the RFK endorsement to compare it to compare what Trump's previously said to RFK endorsing Donald Trump. So you have Trump's campaign spokesperson who previously said, we'll just show you. Let me just show you what she said. We'll show the first one, Brett. Let's play this clip.
Oh, 1 second.
RFK Jr. supports a national federal smart grid that would control how long we can keep the lights on in our homes, how long we can keep the water on. That is communism, not capitalism. President Trump opposes that, and I think the American people do.
So you have that right there, and then here's what Don Jr. had to say about RFK. Let's play this one.
I have a very large bacon cheeseburger, and that's an affront to our political enemies. RFK, who thinks hog farmers are a greater threat to Americans and to the world, apparently, than Islamic terrorists.
And then you had, again, Trump's official spokesperson. This was, I think, 3 months ago. Let me show you this one about RFK.
RFK Jr. is a radical leftist. He campaigned for Obama and Hillary in the past election cycles. He supports a 70% income tax on the American people. His energy agenda is more on brand with communist China than the United States of America. He's a radical.
Then you had RFK selling shirts like this. RFK Jr. used to sell this shirt on his website. It's now suddenly unavailable. Trump, Fauci, 2024, give us another shot. Then you had all the MAGA influencers say things like this. RFK Jr. says he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's jet twice, went fossil hunting with him in South Dakota. Quote, my wife had a relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. So there were posts like this. You have the big influencer cat turd for the MAGAs who said, after RFK Jr. admitted to supporting full-term abortions today, in my opinion, anyone who still supports him is pure evil. There's no gray area here for me. Again, if you still support him or even retweet him after he admitted this, I honestly believe you're pure evil. And then I guess Cat Turd admits that he's pure evil because then he retweets him and then says RFK Jr. shaking hands with Donald Trump and promotes him. Donald Trump said I'd even take Biden over RFK Jr. because our country would last a year or two longer prior to collapse, but it would be dead either way. His views on vaccines are fake, as is everything about his candidacy. And so now, though, you have like Donald Trump Jr. posting photos like this, which are very weird, of like Donald Trump's face, like together with RFK Jr.'s face. And then it says, "Make America Healthy Again, Maha." As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, says, weird. That's why I love Ron so much. He could write a whole story with one word, right? Why need 500 words or 1,000 words? He just posts it and goes, weird. And then he goes, so the new Trump RFK Jr. slogan is "Make America Healthy Again," as Donald Trump is eating a hot dog and just kind of golfing. And or Ron Filipkowski writes this: "We will make America healthy and sane again." And you see both of those individuals right there. You also have like one of the new things the campaign is rolling out is making Kennedy like their shadow VP. And then they're starting to like minimize Vance. So like the new signs that they're handing out has like Trump and Kennedy in like the big white bold. And then you have like Vance in the middle that's kind of like just red. And so it's like Trump, Vance, Kennedy, as though it's really Trump and Kennedy. But, you know, look, I think that you have to know that JD Vance is quite literally the worst VP candidate like ever. It's like every weekend he's now like, why do they even send him to do these appearances? Is it like a shame ritual that Donald Trump sends him on? So he goes on Meet the Press and he's asked about his cat lady comments. And let me just show you what he says to them. And then Brett, I'll show the other one, then I'll get your take. Show the first one.
Out a little bit, then you're calling it a sarcastic comment.
Sure.
And yet some women, and you got the feedback in real time, felt like it was a gut punch to them personally. Do you regret making that comment?
Look, I regret certainly that a lot of people took it the wrong way, and I certainly regret that the DNC and Kamala Harris lied about it.
But do you regret what you said, Senator?
Look, Kristen, I'm going to say things from time to time that people disagree with. I'm a real person. I'm going to make jokes. I'm going to say things sarcastically. And I think that what's important is that we focus on the policy. There are certainly going to be things that I say. If I'm elected vice president, people are going to say, well, I wish he had said that differently. I think it's most important to actually be the person I actually am and to say those sarcastic comments were made in the service of a real substantive point. This country has become too anti-family. It's too expensive to afford a house. It's too expensive to afford groceries. Donald Trump and I want to change that. And unless we get better leadership, we're not going to.
But again, just very quickly, given that people have told you directly, have spoken out, have said that they were offended, they were hurt by those comments, do you wish you never made those childless cat lady comments?
I think that it's much more important for me to just be a normal human being who sometimes says things that people disagree with. I have a lot of regrets, Kristen, but making a joke 3 years ago is not in the top 10 of the list.
All right.
Just being a normal human being.
I mean, could you just be normal? Just, do you have any regrets?
I was just trying to do normal human things, and if I say things that people don't like, then I should just keep doing normal human things like people do. That's all I heard anytime I saw JD. He's so defensive, huh? Let's play that second clip because this is insane.
Talk about women voters more broadly. The Census Bureau estimates there are 22 million women between the ages of 20 and 40 who, for whatever reason, do not have children. What do you say to those women who hear some of your comments, including the childless cat lady comments, which you've been asked about, but who feel as though you won't represent them?
Well, I'd say, first of all, I will represent you. I want to be the vice president for the whole country, and I want to represent everybody. And yes, I made a sarcastic comment years ago that I think that a lot of Democrats have willfully misinterpreted. But what I've simply said is that I think that it's really a profound change that's happened in our country where we become anti-family, and I would like to change that.
Dude, you didn't attend the vote for the child tax credits, where there was actually an opportunity for you to make the vote on, I guess, the point you are horrifically making, which you're not making at all. You didn't show up. In fact, the Republicans stopped the child tax credits from being renewed. The child tax credits, the biggest in history, were implemented by President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Vice President Kamala Harris has laid out a plan to increase those child tax credits to $6,000. And all JD Vance wants to do is talk about childless cat ladies and post-menopausal women being a threat if they're not watching their grandkids. Like, Those are the things. That's what he said. Was that what he said last week or 2 weeks ago?
He says it all the time, and it's not a joke. Like he's never being sarcastic when he says it. He really means it. He means what he says. He's trying to act like it's a joke now. He does the thing that's like it's not an apology when you say, well, I'm sorry if you took it that way. I'm sorry if the Democrats twisted my words. No, those were your words. Like, just take ownership. I would so much more respect if he went on there and said, I said some stupid things. I shouldn't have said that. But here are my values. Here's what I think. And I apologize for those comments. I would actually like respect that. But putting the blame on the people who rightfully interpret his comments the way they were intended to be delivered, I think shows how just horrific of a human being he is. And he's always just so defensive. He really like doesn't know how to be a human, and interacting with people when you're in this job, when your job is campaigning, is kind of an important part of the job. Like, you're not just a random person. You are running for vice president of the United States. And it just seems like he goes around treating everybody like they are pawns in his little game. You're right, Ben. Donald Trump keeps sending him around also to like the weirdest, whether it's an interview on like a weird podcast or going to these parking lots where he like speaks in front of like 15 people. And it's just so incredibly awkward. And then you see like the incidents like at the donut shop the other day in our clip that we posted that went viral. It's like he can't have a normal moment. And anytime he even tries to have a normal moment and tries to say something that's semi-positive, he ends up, I was going to say he ends up couching it, but I didn't mean it that way. He ends up couching it in a, I can't even continue now. He ends up couching it in a way that is just so incredibly offensive to everybody he's speaking to, and he manages to offend those groups that he's trying to reach out to.
I don't really like to talk about people's appearances, but because he's so cruel, I feel I have no choice to sometimes. Like, he shows up to these interviews, right? He's like wearing the eyeliner, and then he's making these like horrifically and weird misogynistic statements, like with the eyeliner. Like, he clearly has issues regarding who he really is and like who his identity is. And he's there and he's like, it's a strange character to watch. And the very idea too that he's a pick. I mean, like, the fact that Trump was ever in office and disgraced it is a whole thing in and of itself. But like, the fact that this guy is being picked to be someone who could be running the country.
Imagine how you feel though, like to be him now too, like him doing all this, getting all the crap that he's getting, rightfully so. And then Donald Trump kind of pseudo replacing you with RFK Jr., a guy who him, his family, and all the influencers were calling a communist who wants to destroy America. That's not exactly like bridge, forming language with a person. That's not just a difference of opinion that you have with somebody that you could get over. They use the strongest language for a guy who literally has had brain worms, for a guy who like hit a dead bear in Central Park and tried to blame it on like a biker there was another like weird animal story today with RFK where he like beheaded a whale with a chainsaw and then mounted the head of the whale onto his van for a 5-hour drive home. And his daughter told the story that everyone was staring at them and that the car smelled rank and that they had to have plastic bags over their heads so they didn't smell it, and that everyone was like giving them the finger as they were driving. And she goes, hey, that was just normal stuff in the RFK Jr. family. That was just normal stuff that dad did. That's the guy that you get kind of pseudo replaced with. Like, these MAGA influencers, if you look online right now, they're kind of ignoring that Vance is even on the ticket. I saw Benny Johnson, I think it was, don't quote me on that, but I think it was him. He posted a picture of RFK and Donald Trump, RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, and wrote something along the lines of, this is the ticket. This is the ticket. And Donald Trump, adding insult to injury, reposted that post on his Truth Social account. Like, it's the biggest FU to your own VP. It shows how just disorganized this campaign is, shows how flailing they are. And by the way, all the data says that, this RFK, it means nothing at the end of the day. They keep thinking up these crackpot schemes, these stunts that they think are going to get them more votes. It never equates to anything. It's just stunt after stunt after failed stunt after failed stunt. And people see right through this crap.
That same account, that Johnny MAGA, one of the biggest kind of Trump influencers out there, had also posted, RFK Jr. was once asked about the allegations that he sexually assaulted his kid's 23-year-old babysitter. His answer, quote, "I'm not a church boy. I have so many skeletons in my closet." That was actually his response to the allegations that he sexually assaulted his kid's babysitter. "I'm not a church boy. I have so many skeletons in my closet."
Yeah, it's not.
And now that's who MAGA's embracing. And by the way, you know, like one of the big attacks that MAGA makes against Vice President Kamala Harris also is she's going to ban fracking. She's going to ban fracking, right? Like right now, there's actually more drilling than ever in the history of the United States or any country in the world. America's energy independent for the first time. And also President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are also focused on climate change. Like if we want to talk data, which we do here on the MeidasTouch Network, and pull up charts, take a look at the JP Morgan chart. The U.S. has achieved U.S. energy independence for the first time in 40 years, while Europe and China compete for global energy resources. And then Steve Ratner posts, oil, gas, and renewable energy production are at all-time highs right now, and America is more energy independent than ever. I mean, far more energy independent than when Trump was in office. But RFK Jr. has posted that he would ban fracking. Like his main thing, one of his main things, in addition to banning all vaccines, is banning fracking. But now MAGA's okay. When you realize that they stand for nothing and fall for everything, it's not a cohesive, we know this, political anything. It's just, what is Donald Trump saying today, and how can they seize power, and then how can they play the corporate media to push their messages. We're, of course, going to talk about that so-called undecided voter panel of Pennsylvania voters, where it turns out one of the individuals on that so-called undecided panel was a Trump supporter who had disclosed to CNN before going on the panel that he intended to vote for Donald Trump. But CNN's like, yeah, but come on and have an open mind. Would you still come on and have an open mind? That means he's not undecided. It means he's decided. And if you want to change the concept of the panel and say, hey, we've got lifelong Trump supporters, and we're going to see if one DNC speech is going to change their mind. If you want to run with that, it would be a weird way to do a panel, but at least say that's what your panel is. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the massive energy right now surrounding Vice President Kamala Harris in all of the major polls, but also just what we're seeing on the ground. Let's talk about Special Counsel Jack Smith's latest filing before the 11th Circuit. We've got a lot to discuss. I want to remind everybody, if you want to support MeidasTouch Network, one way to do that is growmeidas.com. Become a recurring contributor at growmeidas.com. Lots of people say, look, we don't really need Patreon. We're not looking for anything in return. Can I just give a contribution or a big one-time contribution? Growmeidas.com is a way that you can do that. But patreon.com/MeidasTouch has a lot of those bonus features and after shows and exclusive giveaways and things like that. And Brett, you, Jordy, and I should do our Zoom meeting pretty soon. We'll come up with that date and we'll post that, because now that the DNC is over, I want to be able to do that with all of you. So if you ever wanted to meet me, Brett, and Jordy, go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch and store.MeidasTouch.com for all of the MeidasTouch gear.
Arguably, Ben, the best way to piss off JD Vance is to get a childless cat lady shirt from store.MeidasTouch.com. I'm just saying. But I also love, in addition to the childless cat ladies, how can you not love the mind your own damn business Harris Walls gear, the Kamala Brat shirt, the we are not going back, the voting for the prosecutor, not the criminal shirt, and we got mugs. We got all sorts of stuff at store.MeidasTouch.com. So make sure that you check that out.
Let's take our last quick break of the show. You heard the good news. Interest rates have dropped, and right now is the perfect time to call my friends at American Financing. They're a family-owned company that is helping people just like you create meaningful savings every month. They're salary-based mortgage consultants Look at your full financial picture, all of your debts, including those frustrating credit card balances where you're paying upwards of 20 to 30% in interest payments every month. And they work with you to create a loan program where they wipe that all out and in some cases have some cash left over to create some emergency savings. American Financing is a true partner in helping you and your family save money. They never charge any upfront or hidden fees. It costs you absolutely nothing to find out how much you can save. Their average customer is saving over $800 a month. And if you start today, you may delay 2 mortgage payments. 866-886-2026. That's 866-886-2026. or visit americanfinancing.net/touch. That is americanfinancing.net/touch. Hey, Midas Mighty. So a little while ago, we had the idea that we wanted to sell the best pro-democracy merchandise in the game for the MeidasTouch Network. And candidly, we had no idea where to even get started. That's why I'm so glad that we found Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business, from the launch your online shop stage to the first real life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million order stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. We use Shopify at store.meidastouch.com, and it has completely revolutionized our business. It allows us to easily manage our shop, view analytics, provide the best customer service, and streamline our entire online shopping experience from A to Z. We wouldn't be able to bring you all the products you know and love without Shopify, and we can't speak highly enough about it. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US, and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds and Rothy's and Brooklinen and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way, like they were there for us here on the MeidasTouch Network. Because businesses that grow with Shopify, and we can attest to that. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Midas, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Midas to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.com/Midas. Once again, thank you to all of our sponsors. The discount codes are in the description below. That's one of the ways you can help support Midas, is by supporting our sponsors, because it's pretty good that we're able to fund this operation without outside investors, and to do it with emojis, or to do it with our Patreon and those sponsors. So shout out to them. If I could be slightly just petty for one moment. I read earlier today, I think it was Semaphore who covered it, and then a lot of other media covered it. Like Megyn Kelly's YouTube channel had more views than NBC and CBS, and she was described as the most powerful voice in journalism based on getting 116.8 million views last month. And they were like, oh, that's more views than this, and more views than that, and more views than this. I just want to say, and they go, she's the most powerful voice in journalism. And again, stop focusing on the person and the ego. I'll say this about the Midas Mighty, which you all built, because let's face it, this isn't about one host or one personality on the MeidasTouch Network. This is about the Midas Mighty community. This is about you. We have more than 3 times that Megyn Kelly number, if her number is accurate. I think we're over 340 million or something like that.
349 million in the last 28 days alone, for perspective. So you put that across a month, add on, a little bit over 370, probably 380. And it is really interesting though, right? And I think it does also make a broader point about the media, that they are so quick to hype up these right-wing kind of media personalities, when we're staring them in the face as Like, and by the way, very respectable numbers, Megyn Kelly. Like, if those are your numbers, those are great. We just happen to do more than 3 times that amount. And so if you're going to call Megyn Kelly the most powerful person in media, then I don't know what that makes the Meidas mighty, but that 4X, that 3X, I don't know. But you see all the mainstream outlets writing articles about her, but whatever, it's all good. Whatever.
So we're almost at 3 million. Almost at 3 million subscribers. And I think we could hit that in the next 24 hours from this live. So make sure you're subscribed. And if you want to help MeidasTouch YouTube channel get there, share this. Tell anybody you know right now or after the show. Subscribe. Help them get to 3 million. Make sure friends, family members, coworkers, neighbors are subscribed. Every one of those subscribers matters. By the way, this is how desperate the MAGA Republicans are getting. They're posting things like this. Yes, this is Tim Walz tweeting about his dog Scout. Only problem is these are 2 completely different dogs. To which MAGA Republican influencer Charlie Kirk responds, Tim Walz is an all-time legendary liar. To which our editor-in-chief at Meidas News, Ron Filipkowski, says, he took his dog to a dog park. He took photos with other dogs. A dog park, which he does all the time. He loves dogs, not just his own. These people are sick.
Yeah. This is that was a reach this morning. I'm shocked. I have to check. I assume it may be mentioned on Fox at some point today also, because that's how they laundered this through. But maybe it was nipped in the bud fast enough where even they would be too embarrassed to run with this. But it just shows you that they are constantly reaching for the most desperate attacks on people. And they're trying to create this narrative around Tim Walz, which is just a lie in and of itself, that he's a liar. And so they lie. They lie all the time. Donald Trump lies 1 billion times a day. And what do? They try to project onto Tim Walz what they do. And they try to do it via this just bizarre attack because he took a picture at a dog park with another dog in addition to his dog. And I honestly don't even understand the point they're trying to make. But this stuff just shows how desperate that they're getting. Like, they have the most historically unpopular running mate behind Donald Trump, and the Democrats have the most historically popular running mate. I think Tim Walz may have the highest popularity rating on the entire ticket, of any of the candidates on the ticket. And I think they're just incredibly jealous in the Trump camp, and fearful right now over seeing this momentum for him, for Vice President Harris.
His joy makes them upset. They're confused. They think his signs of affection and love are weird because they're the opposite of that. And they've been spreading hate and trying to strip us of our joy for so many years. Look, polls don't vote, but they piss off Donald Trump when he's behind in them. So purely for that purpose, I will show him to you, because I don't other than the fact that Donald Trump used to post all of these every single day. And when I would have to look at his social media, and it would be oh my God, why he keeps posting them. So now I'm going to post him just because I know it pisses him off. So take a look at this chart right here. In every single one other than Rasmussen. All he's got is Rasmussen at this point. Also 538. I'm going to acknowledge that I'm hypocritical. Sometimes you have to have self-awareness. The fact that I'm even reporting, I'm just going to admit that I'm being hypocritical here in doing so. And I'm purely doing this for the purpose of the fact that it pisses Donald Trump off. So for my sake of media accuracy, let me acknowledge my flaws and my faults, and let me just make accurate disclosure, especially what we're about to talk about in a little bit. Also, the Dow Jones closed at a record high. Remember 3 weeks ago where Donald Trump was putting in all caps, "It's a depression. It's happening. Panic now. It's all over. I called this. Well, now that the stock market is hitting record highs, and that was just one bad day, moderately bad day of the stock market, which happens from time to time. Now Donald Trump is saying, and his surrogates were saying, Jason Miller over the weekend, for example, that this is because of Donald Trump, that he is the one doing this. I mean, it's so absurd and so offensive. I always say, ask yourself where your 401ks are today. Ask yourself where your toilet paper was under Donald Trump. Ask yourself where your 401ks are today with Vice President Kamala Harris and President Biden. Ask yourself where your toilet paper was under Donald Trump. 401ks today, toilet paper, none of it under Donald Trump. But I guess to test that as well, I mean, you would think under Donald Trump and Jason Miller's theory, the stock that has Donald Trump's name on it, that one should be doing good, right? Like if people are hyped about him, you would expect that stock to be the one off the charts, right? Not low and going down each and every day. And, on the news that Donald Trump is probably going to try to dispose of his shares and sell them in about 3 weeks. Take a look at that number right there, $21.72. I think that's going to look high, in my opinion, in the next few weeks as it becomes clear that Trump's getting ready to sell. And I think a lot of people are going to try to get out of it, but that's my opinion. And, I've been telling you that for many, many years. I think I've been talking about that stock now for 3 years when the SPAC was first announced. I think we accurately predicted each step of it. Perhaps I underestimated how nefarious Trump was actually going to be with it. Slightly, but I think we pretty much called that accurately. But we'll see what happens in September, which will be an interesting thing as you approach October, and then that Trump stock could just be absolutely crashing as you kind of head into the November election. So that'll be an interesting narrative that Donald Trump has created for himself, not one that the media will be pushing. I'm sure the media won't even really be talking about it, right? Like, I bet you it's like MeidasTouch and like Brian Tyler Cohen and a handful of other independent media. We're like going to be the one, right? Mueller, she wrote. Like, it'll be like the 5 of us against 7 of us who are actually talking.
As they write their next think piece on Megyn Kelly's brilliance.
Megyn Kelly's brilliance. Donald Trump's character is shining through.
Shining. Joy.
Story on the New York Times. He's bringing joy back to the race. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. Special Counsel Jack Smith, though, filed his appeal finally before the 11th Circuit after Judge Eileen Cannon dismissed the case on the grounds that special counsels should not exist, that it's an unconstitutional position. That's how she decided to dismiss a case where Donald Trump stole nuclear secrets. So let me just get this straight. Donald Trump claims that there's a weaponization taking place, but his judge dismisses the case where he stole nuclear secrets on the grounds that special counsels don't exist. Hunter Biden is being prosecuted by a special counsel in California, and Hunter Biden goes, well, special counsels don't exist, right, Judge? Right? Judge Eileen Cannon says they don't exist. And then that judge, who's also a Trump appointee in Hunter Biden's case, goes, actually, they exist for you. They don't exist for Trump. But for you, special counsels exist. I'm not bound by what Judge Eileen Cannon says. So 2 Trump appointees, one in the Biden case, the Hunter Biden case, saying, yeah, special counsel's cool. And on the Trump case, special counsel's unconstitutional. And that, to me, is not where the scales of justice should be. Regardless, if we're saying that special counsels don't exist, then it should be dismissed generally for Hunter Biden as well. I think that special counsels should exist in general, and they should not be dismissed for either. But, that's my own opinion. The language that special counsel Jack Smith used to call out Judge Cannon was great. And Ken Delanian did a great job pointing it out. He said that she's nonsensical, that she lacks merit, that she has a strained reading of the law. She lacks common sense. She's misguided. She fundamentally mischaracterizes the law. And just the fact that Donald Trump stole our nuclear secrets and we know that he was sharing classified information, he's on tape talking about it. And that's not a story that anybody talks about again, other than us. Stole nuclear secrets. Hello. Nuclear secrets brought him, put him in a shower in Mar-a-Lago. Not a big deal no more when it comes to Trump. Oh, okay. Steals our war plans. Not a big deal. Found liable for sexually assaulting a woman. Oh, doesn't matter with Donald Trump. Convicted on 34 separate felony counts. Not an issue. Found liable for fraud in the amount of $500 million. Oh, that's Trump being Trump, felon, sexual assaulter, stealer of nuclear codes. That's just Trump being Trump. And again, it's these media narratives over and over again. It's the most ridiculous thing. And so, as we said at the outset of the show, it's like, I don't want to be sounding like conspiratorial. Look, they're trying to make it, as close as possible. They think he's good ratings. They want to prop him up. They want to push these narratives. Like sometimes when I even go very heavy on that in the show, Brett and Jordy and I will talk about it after. We're like, were we whining about the media too much? Like, was it too much of that? And we try, and we don't like, because Brett, to your point, we want reporting be good and accurate. I don't want to spend my time going, oh, New York Times wrote a bad story. CNN
and by the way, I think we also do give our fair share of shout outs to journalists who do a good job, or networks when they do a good job. I mean, you just give a shout out to Ken Delaney of NBC for reporting on the Jack Smith filing. And I think it's good to do both. But I think the issue is, and I think I'm probably the first one to do that gut check after the show. Like, was that annoying that we were talking about that for too long? I think where it crosses the line, where it's like it needs to be something we talk about, is when that is encroaching on our democracy and when it's messing with the democratic process. And so when that happens, I think it's just like we're duty bound to discuss it. And hey, we don't get everything right all the time, far from it, right? But we try our best. We try to correct the record when we don't, and we'll own up to something if we don't. And what I've seen from CNN in this story that we broke has really just been honestly disheartening to see their inability to admit that either they were duped, which it doesn't seem like it, or they willfully put a Trump supporter on a panel, which they told people was a panel of undecided voters. And this panel was presented on the most important night of the Democratic National Convention, following Vice President Kamala Harris's speech, to give perspectives of undecided voters on their opinions on the election. And it was
in what may be the most important swing state, in one of the most important areas. Like, it was like a bullseye, right? Like, they put that right after Vice President Kamala Harris speaks, undecideds who are going to make the difference in this election in Pennsylvania, the state that could mean everything, right? So they're sending a message that they're giving us data, right? That they're presenting this as empirical data, that we're going to learn something important here one way or the other, right? So why don't we show how CNN introduced this segment and how Anderson Cooper threw it to the reporter, Gary Tuckman. Let's play it.
Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris portraying herself as an underdog candidate and a fighter. She addressed her party's convention on this closing night here in Chicago. Right now, we're getting reaction to the vice president's speech from some undecided voters in the crucial battleground of Pennsylvania. Seen as Gary Tuckman is in Allentown. So, Gary, who's with you, and what are they saying about the speech?
Well, Anderson, we do come to you from Allentown in the heart of the beautiful Lehigh Valley in eastern Pennsylvania, and we are with 8 residents of the Lehigh Valley who've been watching television with us tonight and watching Kamala Harris's speech. I do want to say they all have something in common. As you said, Anderson, none of these people before tonight have made a decision about who they will vote for in November. And at least one person here before tonight wasn't sure she was going to vote at all because she doesn't like either of the candidates.
None of the people here made a decision about who they would vote for before tonight. None of the people here made a decision about who they would vote for before tonight. I just wanted to repeat it because that's what he said. So here is what one of the people on the panel, Bryant Rosado, who was on this so-called undecided panel, here's what he has recently posted after MeidasTouch did a report.
And let me just specify, he was the only individual on this panel who, when they went to the panel following Vice President Harris's speech, who theoretically said that he changed his mind and was now no longer an undecided voter. But in fact, after seeing Vice President Harris's speech at the convention, he decided that he's now voting for Donald Trump. I think that's just a bit of important context to set it up.
Yeah, yes, it's important. I was gonna build
building.
It.
Sorry,
I was gonna build.
sorry for a new build.
It's a you know what, teamwork makes the dream work, right? So then an individual who's on this panel where the CNN host said none of these people had made a decision about who to vote for before tonight. This is what Bryant Rosado says. Crazy part is CNN invited me knowing I was a Trump supporter. Then they said it'll be voters that are undecided, not Democrats. Not sure what that means. They told me to keep an open mind and to give Kamala a chance after the speech, since she's the new candidate after Biden. So I did. In other words, they knew he was a Trump supporter. And then they said, but can you keep an open mind after you see her speak so you could maybe, I guess, change that support? Would you be willing to do that? That's what CNN interjected. Then there was this guy, Jeff Clark, who said, and this is like a very interesting dialogue that takes place. And this Jeff Clark account goes, look, it sure didn't seem like you were undecided. I'm just curious. How do they find you? You answered a poll and said you were undecided. Were you rethinking Trump support? I'm actually not mad at you. I just want to understand the process for these things. To which Bryant Rosado says, I'd be glad to answer. I was at a restaurant having a drink with a buddy, and the reporter came to our table and asked, who are we voting for? And we both said Trump, ... Pause right there. Didn't the CNN host say that none of these individuals made a decision about who they were going to vote for before tonight? The person on the panel is saying, I was at a restaurant having a drink with a buddy. The reporter came to our table and asked who we are voting for. And we both said Trump. He said he was voting for Trump. So clearly he had made a decision about who he was voting for. You can't be more clear than that, right? Like, this isn't a confusing issue. This isn't ambiguous. Then Brian Rosado goes on to say, then he asked if I'm willing to have an open mind and give Kamala a chance. And I said, absolutely. And then I was invited. So as a Trump supporter, as someone who says they're going to vote for Trump, would you have an open mind that your entire views will be changed overnight based on Vice President Kamala Harris giving a speech? Now, if that was the arrangement, you would hope that the CNN reporter said, we're here with Trump supporters, or at least one Trump supporter. Has this changed your mind? I told you to keep an open mind. Are you changed in any of the ways that you feel? Because a very basic social media search history of Bryant Rosado that we did shows that he seems to be a very big Trump supporter. He posted the mugshot of Donald Trump from Don Jr. He reposted it where it says, hey, deep state, he's coming for you. See you on January 20th, 2025. Hey, deep state, he's coming for you, with Trump's mugshot. Then he continued to post to Elon Musk, reinstate Trump on Twitter. He reposted Elon Musk with this kind of gross graphic of Donald Trump. And with Trump, I don't even want to describe what this Elon Musk gross post is. So this guy seems to be a big Trump supporter. He says he's a Trump supporter. He says he disclosed it. Not only did he disclose it, he said he had made a decision to vote for Trump. He and his friends said, we're both voting for Trump. So clearly, this was not what the CNN host said, that no one has made a decision. The Jeff Clark conversation continues, and he goes on to say, so when did you say that to the CNN reporter? So this was immediately before the event. How long were you there for? The decision or the restaurant, Bryant Rosado says. And then Jeff Clark goes, the focus group. They just grab people from a restaurant. And then Brian Rosado goes, no, the restaurant invite was a week before the focus group. So 1 week before, Vice President Kamala Harris is in the race a week ago. We all agree with that? Vice President Kamala Harris has been in the race. CNN approaches this guy at a bar, at a restaurant, and then says to him, who are you voting for? And the guy goes, Trump. And they go, but we're going to put you on TV. Would you sit on this panel? I mean, you could read the exact words. If we put you on this panel, will you have an open mind, though, even though you just disclosed that you're going to vote for Trump? The moment the guy said that he and his friend are voting for Trump, you know what you do? You say, thank you for your time. We're going to have to find someone who's actually undecided. CNN has billions of dollars of resources. They ain't funding it based on emojis and freaking Patreon, and pro-democracy sponsors with Jordy doing ad reads. This is CNN. They have all the resources. I wish I had 1 billionth of the amount of good that I wish I could accomplish for our democracy if I had 1 billionth of the resources of CNN. But they're going up to, hey, bro, we're at a bar. How does this even happen? Hey, man, who you voting for? Trump? Okay, but would you be willing to keep an open mind and vote for and listen to Vice President Kamala Harris and perhaps change that opinion? Okay, that's their process. So now, Brett, that I built that, let me then show you what happens next. So you saw CNN introduce the clip. They toss it over to Gary Tuchman. You now have the full history based on Bryant Rosado's own words. And I think it's important to highlight his own words, just tell you what he is saying. And so here is now Brian Tuchman on this segment emphasizing, again, these are undecided voters.
Gary Tuchman.
But what I want to ask all of you all together at this point, like I said, none of you were ready to make a commitment to any candidate in November. Please raise your hand right now if you're now ready to make a commitment after today. Wow. I'm just kind of surprised, Bob. We haven't rehearsed this. I'm going to make that very clear. I will attest to this. 7 of you are now ready. Scott?
Yes, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris.
Andy?
Yeah, Kamala Harris, yes.
Donna?
Yes, I'm voting for her also.
Sean? Sean?
Yes, Kamala.
Sabrina?
Kamala.
Patrick?
Kamala.
Brian?
Trump.
Trump. And finally, Lindsay.
Still probably not voting.
Still probably you don't like either of them.
Nope.
Now, finally, here's the reporter again talking to Bryant Rosado. Let's play this clip.
And Brian, you decided on Trump. What about tonight? Because when we met last week, you were undecided. What about tonight made you decide you were going to vote for Trump?
Her speech was great. I like how she went into personal history again. It was just not moving for me.
But it made you think that Trump's a better candidate than her.
He's here for it. He's a little bit more aggressive. She's aggressive in her way, but I think she'll be aggressive in the next term.
So Trump over Harris for you, Harris over Trump for most of you. What I will tell you, 75 days now until Election Day. So Lindsay, you have a few more nights to sleep on it. Thank you all for coming and joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anderson, back to you.
Gary Tuchman, thanks. That was fascinating.
And I guess there are some people who say, but why are you fixated on this? Because there were still most of the panel said they would vote for Vice President Kamala Harris. But that's not the point. Who even knows their story now?
Yeah. It spoils the whole panel and it spoils all their coverage, and especially when they do things like this, because you don't know what you could trust. I would love to be able to trust that those 6 other people also were independent voters who were or were undecided voters who were convinced to vote for Kamala Harris. I'm not sure you can make that determination anymore after seeing how they picked this individual. You just can't, and it just goes to trust in the media and the fact that all they had to say there really was, if they just said, listen, you were a Trump supporter. You said you were voting for Donald Trump. but you said you're willing to keep an open mind. That would actually be by the way, that's a more interesting story. Like the fact that he gave her a C as somebody who is going to vote for Trump. I actually think that's more interesting to tell voters, and it's the truth to tell voters. But we contacted CNN for this story. We've been reporting on it over the past few days. Our research team has been incredible putting together those clips, looking at all the things that Bryant Rosado has been saying. And at some point, it's like it's on CNN. It's not on him. Like I
agree with you.
I don't blame him.
Arguably, there was a moment there when he was asked. So when I met you a week ago, you said you were undecided, where he could have said, "Whoa." I actually said that I had decided I was voting for Trump, but that I would keep an open, and I'm actually a Trump supporter. But the reality is he's been put in that position by CNN. He's at that point in time, he's on live TV. He's not a professional TV person, as far as I know, so you're going to push back against the reporter on live TV, in front of a ton of people. But that was the moment where arguably he could have said, "Hey," but CNN claimed this was undecided. They did not make the disclosures. A lot of people feel this was misrepresented, and it casts doubt on everything that CNN is doing and does. And so here's the statement that CNN gave us. And they wrote, when building the panel. So the CNN spokesperson specifically responded to us in our story, and they said, make sure you credit this to a spokesperson. When building the panel of voters who haven't decided on a candidate, all participants made it clear that they indeed hadn't made a final determination. This particular individual, who said he had supported Donald Trump in the past, expressed to us that after President Biden dropped out of the race, his mind became open and he hadn't make a final decision on a candidate. I guess they had a typo there. But according to Bryant Rosado, he did. He said that I told him we are voting for, and we both said Trump. And so CNN ignores that. They give that statement. So we went back to CNN with a number of questions as well, like, but he said that. Do you do social media searches? Why didn't you tell the public that he was a Trump supporter? It would have taken you 15 seconds or less to say that. Why didn't you do that? And CNN refused to give a public statement. And they say, we stand by our statement. That was their final. We will not address this any further, basically. And that's our statement, and that they want to basically, close the books to it. And look, the broader issue here, though, as we conclude today's show, to me, those are the questions. Yeah, the broader issue on today's show, for me, though, is this is a window into kind of my biggest fears about how CNN and these corporate media networks are covering things. And are they pushing narratives, or are they reporting on the news? And the fact that there's this response from the spokesperson, like, imagine the spokesperson to say, hey, we got this one wrong. You're right. Maybe we should have made that disclosure and we'll do better next time. But it's like so defensive, like, this is how we do it. We're not, why would we need to disclose that he's a Trump supporter? And then
I thought our questions, by the way, were like pretty fair questions. We asked, why didn't they disclose to viewers that this individual was a Trump supporter? We asked, why didn't they disclose to viewers that this individual was critical of Mike Pence's decision to certify the 2020 election? Like that's kind of a big deal, right? Reposted mugshot photos of Trump from Donald Trump Jr. saying that Donald Trump is coming for the quote deep state. We asked if they used due diligence for its participants in their social media histories, and asked if it was done in this case. And we brought up the fact that Rosado claims that he had informed CNN prior to being selected for this panel that he intended to vote for Donald Trump, and that this was just a week before the panel took place. And so Vice President Harris was already the nominee. So it seems to contradict the statement that we were given. Is that an accurate recitation of the facts? And they would not go on the record with a response, and said, just kept pointing us back to that original statement.
By the way, I would be happy to bring Bryant Rosado on and ask him about what went down and speak to him about it. I mean, I think the way, frankly, CNN handled this was abysmal. I mean, he says he disclosed it. I mean, by all accounts, CNN knew what the guys that knew the guy was a Trump supporter.
By the way, it goes back to what I was saying about Vance earlier also. Like in that Vance interview with Kristen Welker, if the CNN comment was, this didn't, this didn't meet our standards. We're going to look how this one slipped under the radar. We should have done a look through his history. We thought that his mind was open. We really should have checked. Like, once again, I would respect that honesty, but it's that deflection and that, what appears to be just don't believe your eyes and ears, sort of thing. That really is the thing that gets under my skin. And I think that's the thing that is really a barrier to trust. And we need trust, quite frankly, in organizations like CNN. We need to be able to have trust in organizations like the New York Times. Like they have big budgets. They have reporters all over the world. A lot of them do incredibly good work. Some of them are putting their lives on the line every day in war zones. They're doing really crucial work that could only be done at that level with that kind of funding. But all I'm asking is for, the same responsibility that you'd ask your subjects when you are asking them questions. I think you owe that to the public as well. You owe that same transparency to them. And that honesty is such an important part. That relationship between citizens and the media is such an important relationship that needs to be a positive one in order for our democracy to thrive. And that's why, that's why I want to spend time, discussing this.
Look, we're humans, right? Like, we're going to make mistakes. Like, if Gary Tuchman was, super busy and, in the heat of the moment, he didn't hear him. There's I guess ways to address things, right? Like, people screw up. Screw-ups happen. And then when you screw up, just be like, hey, I screwed up. I screwed up. We're gonna, but like the fact that they don't do that and they'd be like, wait, this is how we do it. This is how we do. It's like, okay, well, that's very alarming. Like that arguably the most alarming part of this story is this statement more than anything. But look, we're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. And that includes, we're not going back to corporate media that wants to both sides these issues. This is unapologetically pro-democracy media right here, powered by you, the Meidas Mighty, community power, not one host, although Jordy's pretty great, not one host. This is about you. This is about us. This is about building and sharing this message. So folks, I think this could be the week where we hit 3 million subs. Let's get there together. Make sure you subscribe and have others subscribe. Brett, will you indulge me not to do the after show today because I got to deal with my Wi-Fi situation. So I want to. Will you all be okay if I don't do an after show today? So
yeah, we'll be back with after shows later this week.
I'll do the after show on Thursday. Let me figure out my Wi-Fi.
Forgive us, patrons, but we will be back, and we're going to name that date where we're going to do the Zoom Q&As with all of our patrons, and that's always my favorite part of the month. And so we're super excited about that, and always great spending time with everybody here. Hoping that Jordy is feeling better. I know, like I said before, Jordy sends his love to the Meidas Mighty. He was feeling under the weather today, but I know after spending a week on the road doing some business last week and now getting sick, I know he's eager to get back and talk to the Meidas Mighty. I also know that he would be quite mad at me if I told him that I didn't also tell you about our merch at store.MeidasTouch.com. So I'll make sure to do that because I do not want a sick and angry younger brother. And so you can get all of our great merch at store.MeidasTouch.com. The childless cat lady, the prosecutor versus the criminal, the unburdened hats, we got a lot of really great stuff. I love like the wristbands too. They're like, I think about, kind of having wristbands at, like they do at Taylor Swift concerts and stuff, and they trade them out. We have these like silicone wristbands that have some of the different phrases and stuff on them, which are super fun. I'll see if I can pull it up right here. It's going to be on my face, but it's right over there. You can get those also all at store.MeidasTouch.com. Thank you. Road to 3 million. Let's make it happen. I think we could do it in the next 24 hours if we get a big push. So foot on the gas, everybody, let's stay in it. Never get complacent when you see polls, when you see anything. Continue to, do everything to hold, everybody accountable. And whether that's the media, whether that's us, whether that's, politicians, whoever it is, you control this pro-democracy movement. I mean, it's your movement. And at the end of the day, I think everybody needs to understand, like, this power is you. The people who decide the elections are you. We could tell you everything in the world. If you're not then going out and speaking to friends and making this thing exponential, it doesn't mean much at the end of the day. So we are counting on you, the Meidas Mighty. You are really the most powerful pro-democracy community out there. I don't care how many think pieces the media writes about Megyn Kelly and her quarter of the views that we have. We are doing this together. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Meidas Mighty. Ben, any final words?
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty. Find me some Wi-Fi.
The Meidas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The film Against All Enemies, which I co-produced with Ben Meiselas and this network, has won awards around the world for its up-close portrayal of America's insurrectionist movement. It premieres in the U.S. on March 29th on Amazon and Apple TV. Go to againstalllenemiesfilm.com or click the link below. But don't just watch Against All Enemies. Tell your friends about it. It's one more way to hold accountable those who threaten our democracy. Thanks, Meidas Mighty. Let's use our power well.